It's time once again to look at the Oscar-nominated short films. The short films at the Oscars are always the most interesting to me because, with typically a few exceptions, they're often the most obscure titles nominated and have the least star power behind them. It's safe to say that they therefore tend to be overshadowed by many of the other nominees. But filmmaking is filmmaking, no matter the length, and these films shouldn't be passed over just because they run 40 minutes or less. In fact, last year they weren't even part of the main ceremony, which was a crime in my personal opinion. At the same time, they're also often the hardest winners to predict, but I'll do my best. First up are the animated shorts, where anything is possible. This year's batch was incredibly strong and had a great diversity of art styles, sometimes within the short itself. Here are the nominees. The incredibly titled An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake and I Think I Believe It takes a relatively familiar premise and adds a refreshing twist. The film is a stop-motion short about an office worker who begins to realize that his life may in fact be a stop-motion film, and yes, partially due to an ostrich. In an interesting twist, the film is actually shown being made in time-lapse in the background, with the events of the film mainly shown through the director's monitor, a decision that sets this apart from many other meta-animated productions and demonstrates just how much effort gets put into a project like this. And yes, this was time-consuming, being made over 10 months in the director's living room as part of a film school project. It's funny, and has a great punchline, but it's the revealing fourth wall breaking that makes this a must-see for animation fans. Animation can depict the impossible, and it can depict reality, but one short this year depicted a real story that you'd otherwise never believe was true. The Flying Sailor is the most experimental short on the list, and shows the inner thoughts of a sailor caught in a devastating explosion that sends him flying. His life flashes before his eyes as he comes to terms with his impending fate. Or does he? As revealed at the end, the film is based on the story of a sailor who was caught in the Halifax explosion of 1917 and flew over 2 kilometers, or 1.2 miles, and somehow survived. In addition to the incredible basis for the short, the animation is great, including some blending of live-action footage, and really conveys the horror of the event. Ice Merchants is easily one of the best shorts of the 5, mixing a charming style with a heartfelt and urgent story. A father and son live on a mountaintop and sell ice to the village below through inventive means, until unexpected circumstances put their business, and their lives, in jeopardy. The first film from Portugal to get nominated, it uses a simple yet incredibly endearing art style and no dialogue, but you can really feel the story being told. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse is the most mainstream short of the 5. It's an Apple TV Plus and BBC release with some hefty names behind it, and follows a young boy lost in the snowy woods as he tries to find his way home with the help of some animals. In the process, he learns some valuable lessons about life. It's based on a children's book, and it shows. And not always in a good way. It's very sweet, but with not a lot of substance. That said, the animation is spectacular. It uses an art style that may work for children's book illustrations, but probably not for an animated short, let alone one that's a half hour. But boy, they pulled it off. It mixes detailed line work with watercolors in a way that I could have sworn was CGI, but from what I've read, it was actually hand-drawn. The voice acting is great too. While it's the best looking short of the 5, no doubt due to the massive resources behind it, I wish I could have enjoyed it more. Finally, the provocatively titled My Year of Dicks was a bit of a punchline during the nominations announcement entirely on name alone. But as for the film, not only was this one of my favorite shorts nominated, but represents the kind of movie I wish would be nominated more. The film follows a 15-year-old girl in the early 90s as she tries to lose her virginity, told in a series of 5 chapters. The art and animation style is diverse and incredibly playful, mainly relying on rotoscoping, but also using other styles, including horror imagery, anime, and some period-appropriate live-action footage, all with a vibe that feels straight out of the pages of a zine. Despite the edgy title, the overall tone is pretty sincere, using the medium to really convey the cringe-inducing events therein and the protagonist's perspective and internal thoughts. It's adult animation at its best, definitely not for kids, but also displaying mature subject matter as opposed to solely relying on vulgarity. Interestingly enough, the film was originally produced for the FXX anthology series Cake, before the network realized they may have something special and recommended it go straight to the fest circuit, a decision that has clearly paid off. So who's going to win? A lot of people are claiming The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse is the frontrunner, and it very well might be. But despite the great animation and heartwarming tone, it feels a bit too light to warrant a win. Ice Merchants was arguably better in my opinion, and I could call that as my pick. But I'm not going to lie, I'm hoping My Year of Dicks takes home the gold, and for legitimate reasons. It's the kind of film the Academy rarely nominates, and uses animation to great effect while doing enough well for it to be a viable prediction. Regardless, this was an incredibly impressive set. In my next video, I'll look at the live action and documentary short nominees. Hey everyone, if you liked this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like this video, well, maybe you'll like the next one. I have a lot more planned.